For those of you who don't know your work, tell us a little bit about your background.
So my background in filmmaking started off with just a little bit of wildlife filmmaking. If we go back a little bit earlier, it was just commercials and feature films. And then from there, somewhat one day kind of fell into the wildlife filmmaking type of thing and really enjoyed it. So I pursued that, and it wasn't too much different to any other type of filmmaking. It was still a scripted type of thing, and it was still a kind of a fictional story. But then I discovered people, like along the way, I met people that are doing amazing things for this planet, people that are protecting and restoring the natural world, whether it's landscape people or any type of species. And I was like, nobody's really telling these people's stories, and they are just doing incredible things for the planet. And I was like, this is kind of the stories that I want to start pursuing a bit more. So yeah, I just kind of followed that hunch and carried on doing that. And now that's pretty much what I specialize in doing, is finding these unique stories of people that are doing these incredible things, and these individuals that are just extremely inspiring with the work that they do. And they're not doing it for the fame or fortune. Barely anybody knows their name, but yeah, I feel like their story needs to be told, and the awareness that it can bring to the world through visuals and filmmaking and photos and stuff like that, it really does help a lot for them to obtain more funds for their projects.
What sort of countries, like whereabouts are you operating, making films?
So currently, because of lockdown, it's mostly in South Africa, but it has been, lately I've been in Zimbabwe and also been in Namibia. And those type of projects have been lately has just been rhino based. So it's people that are trying to protect populations because of the poaching problem that we have in Southern Africa. There's a lot of pressure on the species, and their path to survival is kind of up to having like almost full-time 24-hour 7 days a week type of security. But it's also very difficult to kind of protect a very vast landscape of wilderness. You know, it's not easy to move through this stuff, and the people that are poaching these animals are extremely well versed in being able to navigate this landscape as well. So that's why the poaching is so big, because these guys know their story when it comes to tracking these animals. And yeah, so the demand for rhino horn is the main driver behind this. And what people are doing, which is kind of the first line of defense, is dehorning the rhino. So by dehorning the rhino, you remove the rhino's horn, and this doesn't impact its life. It doesn't impact its social, the social constructs of a rhino's life and the people that, I mean, the other animals that are around it. And this is the best way to try and mitigate the situation of people taking away the thing that the people want, removing that, and then them finding a rhino with no horn is less trouble. I mean, it's too much trouble. Like the risk versus reward is not, like, it gets outweighed in the end. Yeah. So that's the kind of stories that I've been telling lately, and that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. It's basically putting together a film of the people that are going about. So a reserve would come to them, a private game reserve, which is owned privately by, you know, somebody that really loves wildlife and stuff like that. And they've restocked this area full of all kinds of wildlife, and they'll have pressure from poachers wanting to come or coming into their property. They can hear gunshots and things like that at night. So these guys come in and then they dehorn the entire population on this guy's property. So it could be anything from 33 to 40 rhino that is being dehorned in about 2 days. So it's like quite an intense project. Yeah. Where they're going, there's a helicopters and fixed wing planes and all kinds of crazy things going on, but it's like a well-oiled machine. Everybody knows what they're doing. They've got highly trained and experienced vets that are taking care of the animals. And yeah, that's kind of what they are doing at the moment in terms of fighting the poaching situation down here.
It sounds like an exciting kind of thing to be a part of. What's your role on the production?
On this current production, it's I'm pretty much a one-man band. So I'm filming everything, I am editing everything, I'm directing everything, also kind of extracting the story while we're on the ground, because everything is so unpredictable. So you don't really know what's happening. You know what needs to happen, but you can never predict what happens out in the wild. So especially working with animals that are like over 1.5 tons in weight, you know, it's things can go wrong really quickly. But if everybody does their job that they're supposed to be doing. So yeah, basically I'm doing everything on the shoot to keep the footprint of the crew really small on the operation, because the more people are running around, the more chaos it becomes, and you want to keep things as tight and as controlled as possible.
It sounds like it would be under a lot of time pressure as well. I know some nature documentaries, you get months or years to kind of gather footage and create your story, but it sounds like this is a very different kind of prospect.
Exactly. This is very much on the go type of shooting, is proper guerrilla type of filmmaking, documentary filmmaking, because you just need to understand what's happening in the project. So luckily I have a lot of experience with this type of stuff, so I can predict things that are going to happen, and I know how things play out generally when they do dart the rhino and the rhino goes down. I know exactly the process that happens, so I know where to place myself. And because it's 33 rhino, you're not going to show absolutely every single rhino being dehorned, because then it'll just be long. So at least I get a couple of extra chances, which is the luxury to have out in the wild.
Whereabouts does the film go once it's kind of all edited and made? What's the kind of distribution for it?
The distribution for it right now is through a small organization that I founded with my good friend Donald Boyd. And the organization is called Behind the Scenes of Nature. And what we are trying to showcase is people that are protecting and restoring the planet. And we kind of trying to help those people and give them a voice and give them a platform where they can showcase their work. And we want to release everything for free. We're not trying to make any money off this stuff. At the end of the day, if there's any money that needs to be made, is to try and raise funds for the organizations that are doing these amazing things. So we don't take any money ourselves. We'll take care of ourselves in the other avenues of filmmaking. But for this, it's just about purely doing good and helping others out. Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's great that you have a passion project that you can kind of fund with your other work, but actually use that to kind of create these great films. Tell us a bit about the kind of workflow, like what cameras, what gear are you taking out into the field? How does it all kind of work when you're out there?
At the moment, I am shooting on 2 camera systems. I am shooting on the Canon 1DX Mark II, as well as the A7S III. The reason why I have 2 separate systems is because the 1DX is a little bit more hardy and can take a bit more of a beating than the A7S. And the A7S obviously has a somewhat of superior quality and frame rates to the 1DX, but the 1DX is a very hardy camera, so I can put it into positions and places where I wouldn't be worried about it getting completely covered in dust and stuff like that. But that does have a bit of a roadblock when it comes to post-production because of the camera's color science. Bringing it into post and reaching a place where I want to try and match the footage has become pretty difficult and very time consuming, which is something that I'm hoping to mitigate with FilmConvert's new software.
Are you using drones in any of these projects?
Yes, I'm droning quite a bit on these projects, but these days I'm droning a little bit less than what I used to, mainly because it's the market's become quite saturated. So back when I started it out, it was still quite in the beginning and it was very exciting. And now I'm focusing a little bit more on just on the groundwork type of camera work and purely using drones for just establishing shots and stuff like that. But however, it has come in handy from time to time while on a project to help them spot animals and go and find the animals without having to either launch a fixed wing plane or a helicopter, which is much more expensive to use. So we can use the drone and go and try and track down the animals that we are looking for, which does help a lot in the field. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't think about that, but yeah, of course, it's a very good kind of spotter kind of thing to have, and you can get in there very quickly too. Oh, very cool.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's very inexpensive to use too. So it's a great tool for that. And yeah, so I'm still, whenever I'm at a beautiful location, I'll still get some nice shots. So probably maybe in a year or 2, I'll put everything together and make another little drone reel.
Nice. What's your favorite aspect of filmmaking? Is it the shooting? Is it the editing? Is it the kind of the story prep? Kind of, do you have a favorite aspect?
I think for me, it's definitely the storytelling aspect, is going into a place that's quite unknown to me and having to extract a story from that place. Obviously, you can only do as much pre-production as possible when you're shooting a documentary style, especially like this type of work that you're doing. And when you're in contact with the people, you are speaking to the main stakeholders out there. So they obviously know their project backwards and know everything about it, but you could arrive there and the janitor that's been working there for 50 years knows more about the project than anybody else does. So these characters you can't really predict for. So I formulated a couple of questions that I ask when I'm on the ground to like try and determine who's been there the longest, and who's got character and soul, and to try and find those people with minimal time at hand is quite a challenge, but I enjoy that challenge a lot. And then extracting the story out of them is also really enjoyable to me.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about your organization and your kind of the films that you're making?
So people can go find it on Instagram for now, if they want to follow along with any of the work that we are doing, and they can go follow Behind the Scenes of Nature on Instagram, which will be, the acronym for it would be BTS Nature, or they can go follow myself, Naudé Heunis, or they can go follow my good friend Donnell Boyd. And through our channels over there, you'll be able to go and keep up with the work that we're doing, as well as the releases of our work. So we've got 2 projects that are hopefully going to be released by the end of this year, where it's similar type of things, where we've gone and done some filming in Borneo and in Brazil. Both projects are quite landscape based, so protecting the landscape and restoring it for the future, to be able to keep it at a point where the future generation can also enjoy the amazing wildlife that these places host, and also just keeping this habitat intact, not just for the animals but for ourselves as well, because we very much rely on these habitats as much as these animals do as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, we'll definitely follow the progress, and once they're released, we'll kind of boost and promote them as well, and we'll hopefully kind of link this interview in as well to try and get you as many viewers and followers.
Yeah, thank you, John. I really appreciate your time as well, and thank you for always helping me out with software and bringing out such amazing software that is very useful and time-saving tools for us filmmakers out there, because it really is something that a lot of people don't realize can be as time consuming as any other aspect of the film. So yeah, thank you.
That's great to hear. Thanks a lot.